Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me once again in Itoro's Hub. My name is Itoro Jimmy. It's so good to be here with you again, once again. Thank you so much for tuning in, and sorry that we had to start a little bit late. Our guest was a little held up, but the show is here, and we are here finally. So today on the show, we'll be looking at issues surrounding grassroots sport. Our topic is how is grassroots sport? How is sports funded at the grassroots level? Now, grassroots sports is commonly sport activities mainly done for recreational activities. And you agree that if it is nurtured and it is harnessed properly, it is very, very beneficial to the community and the country at large. So today I'll be discussing this with Barrister Bob Olukoya, who is a doctoral researcher at the Institute for Sport Business as Loughborough University in London. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
How is sports funded at the grass? Is something that has been a debate over time, because we can't talk about sports without talking about funding. We can't talk about grassroots sport without talking about funding, infrastructure, and a whole lot of things. So, Barrister, who should fund grassroots sports?
Thank you very much. Hello, viewers. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for putting this together. I always appreciate any opportunity to push the narrative of grassroots sport. And this topic is quite hard at this time, funding for grassroots sport. The simple answer to that question is that all of us should fund grassroots sport. Okay, it should not be seen as a role or responsibility of a certain set of people or institutions. All of us. When I mean all of us, I start with parents. Okay, parents must actually deliberately put money into sport. Okay, they must support their kids in terms of buying equipment, paying subscriptions for clubs, kids, and all that. Then we move up a bit. The community must fund grassroots sport. The community must come together. The same way the community comes together to fund security. Okay, especially in Africa, we see a lot of community come together to make sure that the community is secure. That same way, communities should fund sport. For instance, the deliberate effort of putting together community centers, sport centers. Okay, so when we move from the community, we move to the local government. In this context, I guess we're talking about Nigeria and we're talking about Africa. Yeah. So the local government must put a bit more into grassroots. Okay, and then we move from local government, we move to businesses. Okay, local businesses, must have at the heart of their social responsibility funding for grassroots. I'm sure we will get into the nitty-gritty as we continue to have this discussion. So I will talk more about that as we move on. And then again, after the local businesses, we're talking about state structures now. State government, for instance, federal government. Okay, they should put money into grassroots sports as well. And then we have other organizations such as NGOs that provide funding, international organizations. Funding should also come from such sources. And then we have individuals, philanthropists. So there are so many, avenues for funding grassroots sports. So all of them should be exploited. So I go back again and say it is the duty of all of us to fund grassroots sports.
So basically, grassroots sports is the responsibility of everyone in the community if we want it to be sustained. So
Indeed.
you talked about everyone coming together, funding it, taking charge of it the way we take charge of our own security and all that. So how do we get people to understand this, and to want to be part of it? Because most people, like, I like the fact that you said parents and you mentioned some other persons. There are children who are actually talented in sport, but have the problem of practicing, or probably practicing because their parents don't understand what they have. So how do we get to sensitize them and let them understand, what the talent is in the first place before we start talking about,
There's a slight glitch. Yeah, there was a slight
Okay,
glitch.
yeah. So let me I got it. Let me read my question. So I'm saying, if we are talking about, taking charge of grassroots sports, the way we will take charge of security, and you talked about, everybody in the community handling everything, and taking it, importantly, how do we, get to educate parents and educate people enough to know that these are talents and we need to nurture them so that they could be of great benefit to us in future? How do we get people, to get to believe in the talent first before we start talking about investing?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very, very relevant question. For me, I will start from explaining that funding grassroots sport does not necessarily mean physical cash at all times. At times, it is even the time spent, okay, nurturing skills, volunteering with time. For instance, parents taking their kids to clubs, to sports club, or to training, for instance. That's a huge resource, okay? And also, coaches volunteering their time to coach and train, young, prospects is also a resource that is very valuable. Okay. Now, talking about how do we sensitize stakeholders? Listen, it has to be a deliberate process, and that is one of the reasons why we created the organization that I am the chair of, which is the Advocate for Grassroots Foundation, ABGRAS. And I'm sure this kind of program is also an avenue to sensitize people on how to, be part of the grassroots sport ecosystem. Okay, so where I will start from is, firstly, let's start with basics. Basics. Sport is life. Okay, parents should see sport as a part of the development of their children. Okay, sport is not what dropouts do. Sport is not what you just do because there is nothing else to do. No, sport as a sector, if I say it, people might laugh, is potentially bigger than oil and gas industry. Okay, sport as a sector, okay, or as a subsector, because sport is entertainment. So it's a subsector of the entertainment industry. Okay, and beyond the entertainment value, sport also makes you healthy, makes you fit. Okay, so it reduces your medical bills. If you are a sports person, if your kids do sport, the chances of becoming obese, seriously reduced. Sport also will take away, young people from other ills in society. For instance, I saw some government in Nigeria spending money on security hardware, buying vehicles, buying patrol vans, buying gadgets for security organizations like the army and the police and all that, buying them guns and all that. But you don't spend money on creating event centers, sports event center for this youth. Okay, if you spend money on creating educational facility, for instance, kids will go there, they will use it. So the part of the fraction of the money you're spending on buying security equipment to secure your community, you spend a fraction in providing sports facilities, you'll be shocked. Like we say, we are people of faith in Africa. We say the idle hand is a workshop. So why not get them engaged? So we need to keep talking. We need to keep having conversations like this. We also need our the older generation to look back and stand instead for these young people. I keep saying young, but grassroots is not really for one age group. Grassroots sports across. Okay, even people in their 90s can still practice grassroots sport or can still practice sport. I think for young people. So for me, sport education, especially in school, is also key. You go to most schools, they will tell you, physical education is only 30 minutes in a week. No, physical education should be part of the curriculum. You know, it's not what you do as an aside. So there's a lot to say. We need to keep engaging. We need to, bring out all the stakeholders and keep engaging them. But for me, we need to go to the roots. We need to talk to parents. We need to talk to the community. We need to talk to the schools. We need to talk to the government authorities back home and tell them what the benefits, from that can be accrued from grassroots sport. I know I have run a lot, but that is what I'm really trying to say is that we need to start from the basics.
Yeah, I'll say I agree with you there because before now, yes, we do have PE days in school, but today, you go to schools and there even no place for children to play, football, practice long jump, and even do any form. Some of the things we need to probably, like you said, sensitize the school owners, community stakeholders, and also parents as well. So there seems to be more focus actually in commercial partnership and far less consideration for grassroots sports. How can we actually bridge this gap?
Thank you. I was having this exact discussion with a group of stakeholders yesterday, and I was telling them that sponsorship is not a philanthropist gesture. Okay, you are not helping the athletes by sponsoring them. We must now get serious. If anyone invests money in you as an athlete, that person expects a return. Okay, return in one sense. I use an example of water manufacturing companies. Let's say I manufacture pure water, for instance, and I decide, I want to support this young golfer. What I'm thinking of is how many sachet water can you sell for me extra if I put money on you? So we must look away from thinking, it's helping me. Oh, this sponsor is helping me. No. You must be able to activate that sponsorship. You must be able to give something back to that sponsor. I think that's where we need to start, to get the athletes to know that see yourself as valuable, see yourself as someone who can add value. So when you position yourself that way, sponsors will come to you. But if I put money on you or put money in your career and I'm not getting anything back, or you are attracting negative provide to my product, I walk away. I get an example of Tiger Woods when he stopped playing golf for a while. Nike, that sponsors him, stopped producing golf products. They stopped for a long time because they were not selling. So immediately he came back to golf, they start selling golf products again. Okay, because they know that he attracts clients to them. So our young athletes at the grassroots, who must start very young, you start thinking now that what sector, what industry can I add value to? So when you identify that sector and you know what value you can add, then you approach them. Okay, that is how we're going to move this forward. And that is also in line with what the sport ministry is doing at the federal level. You know, turning sport from mere recreation to an industry, to a business. I think that's the way to go, to see it as a serious business. Okay, and once we do that, I can tell you the money to turn around sport in Nigeria or Africa is in Nigeria and Africa. We do not need to look elsewhere.
Yeah, you just highlighted some of the highlighted the importance of branding, you know, in any business, and branding in sport is actually very, very lucrative business. So how can we get, you know, the investors to get to, you know, want to invest in, you know, grassroots sport? Because even in elite sports, it's actually very difficult to get them to come in. How do we, you know, structure the grassroots sports in a way that investors, you know, are willing to come in?
Okay, first and foremost, we need to have a product. Okay, as a grassroots sport organization or a club, what do you have? What is the product? Okay, I don't want to come to grassroots to come and watch you practice your sport, and one, it is not a secure environment. It is not a nice, if I can use that word, environment. You know, it's a messy environment, so you need to tidy up. You know, none of us live, you know, in an untidy environment in our private lives. So why should you practice sport in an untidy environment? Make an effort. Let's take football, for instance. If you're going to play football at any level, make an effort to have corner flags. Make an effort to line the pitch. Make an effort to have a center circle. Make an effort to wear shin pads. Make sure that you wear jerseys that can identify players, the opposing player from the other players. Okay, basically what I'm telling you is that you need to appeal to the public. There must be something that would make me want to be part of you. People think you need to spend a lot of money to get this done. No, you don't need to. You just need to be disciplined. I'll give you an example. We're going to have an event very soon. Well, it's ongoing now. The grand finale is going to be next week at some point. You know, we are pulling out all the stuff to make sure that everyone play their role. Okay, the referees, we're making sure that the referees, you know, the officials are going to be, you know, very fair. They're going to dress the part. You cannot say because you are grassroots and then you wear slippers to appreciate the game. No, you need to play, you know, you need to have match commissioners. You know, you need to have, you know, water, for instance, for the players to replenish. You need to have water breaks. You know, you need to take care of every sector. You need to have a report afterwards of what happened, and then that report you cannot present to potential sponsors. You need to take data. Okay, if it's only 50 people that attended to watch your game, you need to have data of those 50 people. so that you can use them as part of your future engagement. The sponsor, telling sponsor that, listen, I can get 50 people together to see your product on the shirt of my players. And then you grow from there. That, okay, I can get you 500 because I have an event and I have this. So we need to start from the basics. But people just write to multinationals and say, come and sponsor me. We need 5 million naira for this event. But what are you giving back to these sponsors? So that is missing in Nigeria. And that is not part of what I am doing personally and as an organization to make sure that grassroots organization gets serious. Okay, even at the elite level, like we said, you'll be shocked when elite athletes write to you and they are begging you. No, you don't beg than an elite athlete. Some of them are Olympic, have been to the Olympics. And you're coming back and you are begging for sponsors to come support you. No, you will tell them what kind of partnership you can offer them. Okay, I think we need to have a session on this, or we need to go around and talk to people that manage athletes and tell them how to package this, because this is for professionals.
Yeah,
that's a profession in itself, attracting funding for sport.
Yeah, there's something you mentioned, and it's very, very crucial, and that is data. And that has been a problem over time. There have been situations where young persons, have actually played in a particular club, and, he's been able or she's been able to get, fortunate to advance, but they couldn't get the data to actually check the progress. And that actually hindered the athlete. I mean, in this aspect, it was actually a young girl. She's been playing for a while, and there was no substantial data to, sell her, to a potential sponsor. And it was based on, I know this, I know that kind of, rockers, and she actually lost out. And a lot of clubs, a lot of grassroots organizations are guilty of this. How do we tend to educate them on how to manage it? What are the right ways for them to actually carry this out? Because lots of people are still doing things, should I say in the analog way, by writing things down on paper and all that, where things can actually be sorted out. You can actually put these things out on the system, have a website, to keep this information safe. How do we get to, educate them to go about this? Because like you said, everything still goes down to money.
Thank you. That is also very key. And I tell young people that come to me, or their manager, when they come to me and say, we want sponsors, we want to go abroad, we want to expose this player abroad. I say, where is your profile? Can I see your profile? Can I see your Twitter handle, your Twitter page? Okay, Twitter is no more in Nigeria for now, yes. But can I have something I can go and see, where I will see what you've done? Most of them don't have. And I will tell them that is the first thing you have to do. You have to create a profile for yourself. You have to create a data for yourself. Listen, even sponsors are not coming to Nigeria, or the ones in Nigeria are not sponsoring because there are no data. Okay, a sponsor told me, when I asked the sponsor that, okay, why don't you do sport betting on Nigerian sports, local sport, domestic sport? He said, because there are no historical data. What data are you going to use to forecast? You don't have them. Okay, so that is why money doesn't flow into our grassroots sport. So part of what we have done again, I'm glad you mentioned it, and I hope you will not bill me for showcasing what we have done at Avgrass. Anyway, you are part of Avgrass too. What we have done is to create a portal. We started with Oyo State. where our athletes could input their data, coaches could input their data, even fans could input their data. Okay, so when you are trying to push yourself to say, oh, I am this athlete, I am either soccer or handball or volleyball or whatever, potential sponsors or partners could go check that database and look at you. They can see everything they need about you before they even contact you. But because there are no data, people lose out. You know, a lot of our athletes lose out. And Nigeria is full of talent. Listen, the talent that we have in Nigeria, we should dominate the world. We should dominate the world. But because we keep keeping it, it's only in Nigeria you would see an athlete who would say, my coach is Mr. X. He's been my coach from when I was 3 years old. Now I'm 25. That coach is still my coach. You are tying yourself down. Yes, give regard to that coach that they discovered you, but you need to move on as well. You know, you need to move on. You need to get, you know, yourself involved with other people that, you know, can afford you even more, you know, prospects. So data is very key. We need to start doing that. We need to start, you know, this digital age. You know, I cannot sit down in UAE, for instance. I need a striker, a football striker who is 6'4". I need a tall striker. Maybe that's what I need from the team. And then I have nowhere to go check. You know, I have nowhere to check. So we need to start keeping data. Our athletes need to start having profile online, you know, so that it will help to showcase who they are. That is just one. There are so many other ways that we could use data to enhance sports in Nigeria. Yes.
Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So thank you. I think I lost you a little bit there. So if you're just joining us, you're welcome to Itoro's Hub. So today we are talking about how sports can be funded at the grassroots level. There's been a whole lot of challenges around, you know, sponsorship, infrastructure, and all that. Basically, we are talking about the funding aspect first and foremost, because without funds, this talent cannot go far. So we are still talking with Barrister Bob OLUKOYA, and he's, like I said earlier, a doctoral researcher at the Institute for Sports Business in Loughborough in London. Thank you so much, Barrister. So now my next question is, are the roots of grassroots sport misunderstood? Are the roots of grassroots sports misunderstood? Because we see that we've been trying same thing over time and the result is not changing. I mean, the same challenges we've been facing 20 years ago are still the same thing we're still discussing today. Is it that the roots of grassroots sport is misunderstood?
Well, misunderstood might not be the most appropriate, to be honest. I think grassroots sport has been neglected. You ask me. For me, it has been neglected for so long because we felt, you know, what is the big deal? You know, we don't need to put money in that.
Hello, I can't hear you. I don't know if it's from your end. Yeah, I really can't hear a sound from you at all.
Wow. Maybe it's the network. Well, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think the network is really acting up. I can't hear you at all.
You can hear me at all? Wow. Over now.
But can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know, maybe the problem could be from my end. I really can't hear you.
Am I muted? Did you mute me? Hello? Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Let me see. Okay. Can you speak up a bit?
Hi. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I can hear you much clearer now.
You can hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So what I was talking about was that grassroots sport has been neglected for a very long time in Nigeria. And one of the reasons, as far as I'm concerned, is that because of the long time gestation period. Okay, long time gestation period. Because if you discover an athlete at about 5 years old, you need to nurture that athlete till they are in their early teens. Okay, so for me, the mindset isn't that you should see that athlete as a product to exploit. No, you are nurturing a talent. Okay, eventually that talent become good. But I think we in this part of the world think you must start producing fruits once you are 16, 17 years old. You should get a big contract. You should get a big signing. No, that is not the spirit of grassroots sport development. You must have at your back of your mind that you might be training 50. It might be just 2 that will get to the peak of the career and earn, millions of dollars. For instance, again, sorry, I keep using football as an example. Look at Messi. Look at Ronaldo. Were they the only ones that played grassroots sport when they were growing up?
Of course.
Look at Itoro, the Nigerian. Look at Ndidi, both at Leicester City. Were they the only 2 that played sport when they were growing up? But no, they became, the most celebrated. And because of them, a lot has happened. Look at Ahmed Musa. I'm sure when Ahmed Musa was playing football in Nigeria, he was not just this only one in his age group. But look at what he has been able to do. So, because it's only a few that becomes, mega earners, should not put us off. But I think in Nigeria, it's putting us off. We're thinking, no, it's a time, they might not. Yes, they might not end up playing as elite, playing sport at the elite level, but they would have gained a lot of skills, life skills, growing up that will be useful. Even some transferable skills, like leadership skills, like being tolerant of others, okay, like working as a team building. There are so many other things that goes with sports that you can transfer to other professions. So our mindset must change, really. We must not see it as where you put, some funding and then expect returns immediately. Okay, so I think that's one of the misconceptions. Seeing it as some other, like the Nollywood, for instance, that if you put money in a film production, then when the film comes out, you get a return and you get profit from it. Okay, sport is different. Okay, grassroots sport is different, and that is why it is the responsibility of government primarily to fund grassroots sport. Okay, of course, like I said earlier, parents too and the community also have a role to play. Okay, but government at the local level must see sport, at least grassroots sport, as part of their responsibility.
Okay, so Ifeanyi is joining us from the US, and he says, I think the government involvement in everything is part of the problem. Secondly, we don't believe in our own. In our own example of this Example of this is the way our people are following the English Premier League. Do you agree with what he's saying?
100%, 100%. And I've been saying that. In fact, I engaged the sport minister recently, and I told the sport minister that, sir, don't you think the Premiership season, the European season, has taken a break? It is time for all of us to focus on our domestic football league. Let's bring it out to high profile. Let's see the minister attend games. Let's see, NFF president attend games. Attract, other industry players to attend create creative ways of pushing that narrative that our own league is also good. Yes, we look too much. We look abroad too much. We should look inwards. Okay, we should look. I agree with the contributor. We need to look inwards. We need to appreciate what we've got. Yes, I agree to an extent that government might not be the best avenue to lead us in grassroots sport, but we need government money. Okay, we need government money because it is our money. Okay, but the private sector should rise to the occasion. Okay, we cannot 100% remove government from grassroots sport. We cannot. Okay, it is our right. The same way, I keep saying it, the same way government sees security as its primary objective, primary duty. Also, grassroots sport should be at that level. Because what are they going to do? What are these kids going to do if you don't take grassroots sport seriously? So yes, I do agree to a certain extent with the question.
Yeah. So you talked about focusing on our own domestic league, projecting our own, like Ifeanyi also stated there in his comment. I had a coach here. I think my last guest here was a coach, and part of the thing he complained was lack of the bad environment, and that involves infrastructure and the likes. How do we get to overcome this? Because this has been something we've been talking about for decades, if I may say. We've been talking about this for the past 10, 15 years. We're still saying, oh, there are no infrastructures. We don't have good environment. I mean, for players to even play, they travel through bad roads, and sometimes coming back, their vehicles get broken down on the road and a whole lot of things go wrong. How do we fix this before we start, projecting, selling ourselves out like the English Premier League, for instance? Because, I mean, that is a very mighty industry right there. Like you mentioned, if we look inward into the sports sector, we can actually do more, depend more, generate more funds than, depending on oil, even though some people don't agree with that notion anyways. So how do we get to fix, this, the bad environment and, the infrastructure? How do we get to do that?
Well, how do we get to do that? We have to keep talking. We have to keep engaging those that we have selected or elected to run sports and to run governance in Nigeria. For instance, in the community I grew up in Lagos, it's called the Kosofe local government area. We have young people, about 1 million young people in that community, under 16 in that community. We do not have a playing field anymore. We do not have playing fields anymore. Most of the schools do not have sports ground anymore. Okay, they've encroached on it. They build houses on it. I went to secondary school in that community. We need to do inter-house sport. We need to do sport. We need to do all kind of sport activity. But now it's all concrete jungle, buildings all over. I've actually worked with the sporting community in Kosovo local government to write to the state government and tell them that, listen, we need to secure the last part of the sports field that we have. concession it to us. Let's build a sport complex on it, so that it will not be taken again by some other politician that's going to come after this. Okay, so, and I'm shocked that our current leader do not know the value of having sport complexes in a community. It generates a life of its own. I don't know if you remember when we used to have Olo Park in Yaba, in Lagos.
Yeah.
As
I personally learned how to play squash there in Roe Park. I mean, people come in there and you have coaches, from weightlifting, basketball, volleyball, tennis, and all that. Yes, of course. Roe Park is one place that a lot of talent, that has produced a lot of talent in this country. You're right.
Exactly. What about small scale industries around sporting complexes? People that sells drink, people that sell sports, kits,
and all that.
People that sell food, so many other things comes around, sport complexes, but we neglect this, and we want to go to the mass. We want to go, we want to be like Liverpool or Man United. No, let's start from the grassroots. Okay, do you have any swimming pool? Do you have any swimming pool that is publicly owned in Lagos State? I can't remember. I went to Oyo State. They have a public one in, I think you were also at that program in Oyo State. We have there was a swimming pool there. It was moribund. It was, but thank God now, the government now has seen, the need to revamp that facility, and is being repaired now. So how are you going to have this talent on their skills if you don't have infrastructure? Okay, we need to, you see, when the next set of elected government people are going to start campaigning for election, we must hold them to task. What is your plan for grassroots sport? How are you going to ensure? For instance, in the South, why are we not producing swimmers? Why are we not producing synchronized swimmers? When I hear that there are some South kids that can stay underwater for an hour, why are we not using that? To turn that into sport. So we really need, we need to change our mindset. We need to start adding value to ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, and that takes me to another issue of having to go abroad to become superstar. You can become a superstar in Nigeria.
Yeah, of course.
We do not need to be exporting our raw materials to be on out there. No, we can do it right here in Nigeria. We have all it takes. So for me, we need to keep talking. We cannot get tired. Programs like yours need to continue to bring these issues out, and tell our friends.
So like you just said.
Sorry.
Yeah. So like you just mentioned that we don't have to, export our raw materials, sending people abroad, or thinking that until you get, outside the country, that's when you can actually succeed. Based on that, I'll ask, what are the sustainable ways in maintaining the growth, in grassroots sports? It's one thing to say, oh, it will grow. How can we maintain it?
Okay. You see, before we can talk about growth, you would say that you sold something has been sold before you can talk about growth.
Yeah.
Let's sow that seed first. And sowing that seed means that the local government, which is the closest to the community, must start doing what it should do. Every local government in Nigeria has a sport department.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go to any local government, they have a sports department. What are they doing? Every state has a sports council, and those sports councils have offices in almost all local governments. So what are they doing? You know, we need to take them to task. Okay, and the community itself, every community in Nigeria now have an association, community association. If you go check it out, it will be focused on security. That's what they want to do. They are having meeting every week. I'm talking about security. What about sport? Don't you think you need to engage these young people too? Who are these people that go into criminality? Are they not the young people that are falling off the track? How did they fall off the track? Because I did nothing for them to do. So this community association must come together and see sport differently. And for instance, what is sport? It is not track and field or football that is sport. It goes beyond that. Chess is sport. In Yoruba land, there is something they call Ayoloko. It is sport. You know, you name it. You know, there are so many,
lots of activities. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah. I said there are lots of activities there. I mean, like the area that you just mentioned, a whole lot of them, a whole lot that we are not really looking into. So at what point do we, you know, it's one thing to say, oh, young people should be part of this. When there are no data, like we mentioned earlier, how do they know that this is actually sustainable, that they can actually make something of it?
You see, everything else, we have elected certain people to drive sectors. Okay, government cannot do it alone. We know. Government needs to engage the private sector like us, like Agras, for instance. Okay, Agras is well positioned to go around this country and push the narrative for grassroots sport and tell, you know, parents, tell stakeholders that if you embrace sport, criminality will go down. It has been proven. Let me give you a simple narrative. If you have a group of young people that do sport, they train in the morning very early from like 6 a.m. They go do what they want to do during the day, you know, maybe go to school. In the evening again at about 4:35, they are training again. Where is that time in their life to do anything else, to do criminality? Where is that time? They are engaged. They're looking forward to it. They're looking forward to bond with their group. They're looking forward to bond with their coach. They're dreaming of stardom. So there is no time to go and engage in extra criminal activities. Seriously, what about the health benefits? You know, there are health benefits in doing sport. It has been proven. This is not a Nigerian thing. It is global. Yeah. Okay? And it is also, in America, for instance, you know, they do the scholarship system, where if you could do sport, you get scholarship to do sport and also do education. It has been proven that doing sport reduces the rate of illiteracy.
You know, I was coming to that. You know, I was coming to that. I even wanted to ask how that can actually be introduced into our own curriculum here. Because there are lots of young people, you know, some of them, they just come back from school, throw their bags down, and then rush up to the field to go play football or whatever sports they are interested in. How can we actually incorporate that in, you know, in the school system where, you know, the child doesn't lose out, you know, in sports and also doesn't lose out academically?
Exactly. We had a seminar with Subed now in Lagos and Oyo State, and we brought together all the sports teachers, and you can see the eagerness in them. You can see the anger as well, that the school authorities have reduced sport to a 30-minute a week activity in their schools. You see, we need to change that mindset. Okay, we need to know that sport is also education. In fact, there are some things you could teach on the field of play. better than in the classroom.
In the classroom,
You
yeah,
could do
that's
role
true.
plays. Yes, you could do role plays. If you want to teach about leadership, if you want to teach about working as a team playing, team bonding, you could actually teach that on the field of play. If you want to teach discipline, nationalism, if you want people to be true to their country, if you want young people to love their country, you can actually teach that on the field of play rather than the classroom. And you can catch them young. So again, we need to keep talking. We need to keep putting out this narrative. That is a state in Nigeria now is going to have an investment summit in the next few weeks. And I went through the website. They're part of the summit. Nollywood is going to be part of that summit. And there is nothing on sport. And I was shocked. You want to attract investment to your state, and you're not thinking of sport. You're not thinking of sport. You don't think sport is an investment avenue for your state. So we need, I don't know, we need to keep talking. We need to keep, getting people that are knowledgeable to be talking about these things. We need to bring it to the front burner.
Yeah.
Because people don't see sport as a pastime.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about AFGRASS. You've talked about trying to, work in different states. How has it been, setting up AFGRASS in Nigeria, and also how sustainable, is it going to be?
Thank you very much. Advocate for Grassroots Sports Foundation is a non-governmental organization. It's non-political. We are gender neutral, and we are tribal neutral as well. So we work with everyone. We work with the young people. We work with the elderly. We work with whoever believes in sports generally. We are focused on grassroots sport, and it's been tough. And it is tough because of all these things you have highlighted earlier, starting from sponsorship, but we are certain that we have a product. Okay, at AFGRASS, we see ourselves as having a product, and that product is that we want to improve grassroots sport. So we're not going to go cap in hand to sponsors. No, we are telling them we are partners. We want to partner with you. We are partnering with an organization now in the shoot stage. Next week, in the community, 4 local governments are coming together because some people have come together, especially the diaspora gentleman. You see that in his community, people now are losing hope. People are almost hopeless. So he wants to use sport to reach out to these young people and tell them there is hope. Okay, some people are actually thinking of you. Some people actually believe in you. So we're going to use sport. We're going to focus on boxing. We're going to focus on football. And we're going to focus on chess. Okay, we're going to try and bring out the best in that community and see how we can push them, to greater heights. Okay, so that is what AFGRASS does basically, and then we advocate as well. Like I'm talking to you now. We go around and we talk, about grassroots in schools. We talk about grassroots in community, grassroots sport in community. We will talk about it in the diaspora. Okay, we are in the process of creating the diaspora fund for grassroots sport development, because everybody in the diaspora comes from a community in Nigeria. Everybody, you come from a community. So when you're sending that money for them to build you that property in that community, also think about those that stayed behind and are doing sport in that community. We are doing a round now where we are asking people to donate books to poor groups. Okay, even if it's used, it's okay. We will refurbish and get them in wearable condition. So community back home in Nigeria, okay, because we need to look back. So that is what AFGAS is doing. AFGAS is trying to stand instead for these voiceless people.
So what's the process? What's the process, in being part of AFGRAS? You pick,
okay.
Is there a criteria that you look out for?
Okay, we have a website. It's afgras.org, afgras.org. There is a form there that will be filled. We used to be a state-focused organization, but going forward in our third year, this is our third year, we decided that we want to actually be true to ourselves. We want to go back to the basics. So we are local government based now. So every event that we do, if you want to join AFGAS now, you need to join by your local government, not via your state now. We don't have state groups anymore. We have local government groups. So which means we're going to have 774 chapters, okay, so that we can reach out to the grassroots directly, rather than having states, groupings, and then nothing gets to the locals. So the website is the first step, fill in your details. Somebody will get back to you, tell us the sport you are interested in, tell us which local government you have from, and then we will take it from there. And then we start seeing how we can.
That's really impressive. That's really, really impressive. So what does good governance actually mean to grassroots sports? I mean, from all you've actually talked about right now, with your engagement with the community over time, I mean, going through AFGRAS, what does good governance, means to grassroots sports? I mean, what's your
in our
take?
experience, madam, there is no governance. There is no good governance in grassroots sport in Nigeria. Seriously. And what do we mean by good governance? Good governance means having people in place doing certain things. For instance, if you're a coach, do actually coach. Stick to your coaching. If you're an administrator, stick to administration. Don't jump between an administration to be a coach. Do you get me? Because that is a process of good governance. If money is coming into your organization at the grassroots level, it should not go to the coach's account. You should have either a treasurer or a financial person that will deal with money issues. So those are elements of good governance, which is really lacking in most organizations at the grassroots level. You see, it's only one person's show. One person want to run everything. You want to be the coach, you want to be the administrator, you want to be the team manager, you want to be the owner of the club, you want to be, everything. No, it cannot work that way. It will not work that way. You will not be trusted. Okay, so you need to have what we call division of labor. You need to divide these responsibilities, and then you'll be trusted. Because if, for instance, you want to partner with any organization, we have for your organogram. Who deals with what? If we do not see that, division of labor, we will not engage you. We will encourage you to go and do what is right. So good governance is actually lacking at the grassroots level. Of course, it is also lacking at the state and national level. You see recently, the minister had to dissolve the board of some federations. Why? How do you think that happened? That is a gap. Ordinarily, the minister should not have any right to dissolve board of federations. But he who pays the piper dictates the tune.
Yeah.
So if you, as a federation, go out there to go and get sponsors, you are relying on government to give you funding. Then, of course, the government can decide to dissolve the board or to put the plug on your funding. But if you are 95% funded privately, then government will not have the boldness to dissolve your board.
Sure.
Okay, so again, good governance is lacking at that level. and it goes all the way down to the grassroots. Okay, until we get that right, we still do it even from the club, even the clubs as well. Even the clubs, you know, and I'm talking of, you know, professional clubs now, you know, in each of these sports, you would see that good governance is lacking, accountability is lacking, you know, because good governance and accountability goes together.
Yeah.
So
thank you so
we need to get
much.
that right.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. Really, really grateful that you did justice to that. I know we can still talk a whole lot more because grassroots sport is such a broad topic. I mean, there's so much to talk about. If we were to talk about it all day, we will go all day. There's a whole lot, like you said, there's a whole lot of gap. There's a whole lot that we need to do. There's so much sensitization that needs to go around. We need to carry everybody along, from the parents, community leaders, coaches, everybody. I mean, schools, you know, principals, teachers, and all. The list is endless. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode, sir. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up the show?
Yes, I'm just going to say thank you for this opportunity. Please continue to do this. You have become a channel or a vessel to amplify our voice, and we wish that you will invite us again very soon to come and talk you know, about more grassroots issues as they arise. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're so happy you were part of us today. So, guys, if you're just joining us, sorry, we're wrapping up for the day. And today's episode was quite electrifying. We talked about how are sports funded at the grassroots level. You'd agree with me that to be able to harvest and to be able to, you know, get profit from whatever thing you do, you need to take it from the grassroots. And sport is not different at all. And we had Barrister Bob OLUKOYA joined us from Loughborough University in London. He is a doctoral researcher at the Institute for Sports Business. So thank you so much for joining us. And the video remains on the page. In case you couldn't join us, you can still watch the full video on our page. And also I'm going to upload it on our YouTube page as well at Itoro's Hub. Thank you so much for being part of us. And until I come your way next time, I'll say bye for now. And then again, before I go, I'll be having a show again tomorrow. We'll be talking about physical education and how we've been able to navigate through it during the COVID, after COVID pandemic. So please stay tuned. We'll be having Eduardo join us tomorrow from the Philippines at 12 o'clock. Thank you so much for staying with us and hope to be with you again tomorrow. Bye for now.